Hello everyone. This video is going to cover our grade contract for the semester. You will not receive letter grades in this course until the end, and I'm going to unpack what that means. So if you go ahead and scroll down to grading and feedback policy, or even an easier way to get to that, if you go to week 1 and open that, and you click grade contract, that will open this file. This section of English 101 uses a grade contract to determine your final grade. So instead of getting individual grades for each assignment, you're just going to get credit for each. If you complete it satisfactorily, you'll get 1 point. If you don't, you don't get a point. You will receive feedback on your major assignments, though. Your major projects, you'll receive feedback from me, so you'll be developing and growing as a writer, and you don't necessarily have to worry about how you're being interpreted by the instructor. I like using grade contracts because I want you to focus on your reading and writing for the course and not worry about grades. As long as you're putting in a good faith effort and doing the required work, you'll know what to expect at the end of the semester. So, an easier way of explaining this would be a grade contract shows you exactly the amount of effort you need to put in and the work you need to complete to get an A, B, a C, or a D or F. If you scroll down to expectations for satisfactory work, it outlines what you need to complete to get an A. The grade contract and portfolio gives you the freedom to take risks with your work. You have lots of time to write, revise, and grow as a writer throughout this course. Um, the big thing here is practice. You only improve at writing if you're practicing, which means you're not using AI to generate your work, and I will know and I will call you out on it if you do. AI can have its place and it's a very powerful tool, but you are not developing as a reader, as a writer, as a thinker if you're using generative AI. And I will know if you do. I've spent enough time teaching to know when a student, a first year writing student, is turning in a perfect paper that it's been tampered with by AI. If you use AI for any purpose in this class, you have to write a paragraph outlining what it was used for, why it was used, and the paragraph cannot be generated by AI. But you can't use generative AI to do your work for you. That is a hard no. We'll get to that more in a bit. So, to get an A in the class, you don't want to be late on your work more than 3 times. You need to do 90% of the journal entries, which means if we have 10 journal entries, you need to submit at least 9. You need to regularly engage in discussion boards, weekly replying to at least 3 of your peers. You've got to conduct peer review, and you have to complete all core writing projects, which include your literacy narrative, rhetorical analysis, research and synthesis, and portfolio. Um, they have to be written by you and not by generative AI. Failure to complete any of these projects could result in a failing grade. And portfolio completion is also important. At the end of the semester, you'll be completing a portfolio. Failure to satisfactorily complete and submit a portfolio will reduce your grade by 2 letter grades, so you have to turn it in at the end. If you have an A, it'll knock you down to a C. If you would have otherwise had a B, it's going to knock you down to a D. Don't worry, I will remind you to complete it at the end of the semester. If you are trying to earn a B, you can be late on your work 4 times. You submit 80% of journal entries, which means if we have 10, you submit 8. Discussion boards need to be regularly completed. You can opt out of a peer review. If you would otherwise get a B but don't turn in your portfolio, it's going to knock you down to a D. If you're aiming for a C, you can be late on work 5 times. You do 70% of journal entries, 7 out of 10. You still have to do discussion boards. You can skip out on a couple of peer reviews. And if you have otherwise earned a C but don't do the portfolio, you'll have an F. For unsatisfactory, D and F, pretty much anything under 70% of the journal entries. Um, you skip the peer reviews, you don't do your discussion boards, you're not completing your work, excuse me. You're not doing the regular journal entries and things like that. You may fail if you regularly miss deadlines, complete fewer than 50% of journal entries, don't participate in discussion board, or you don't submit your core assignments unless we've renegotiated the terms of your grade contract. Um, For your final grade negotiation, you'll be looking over the work you've completed and deciding what the grade that best aligns with what you've completed this semester. You can always change what you've contracted for around midterms. Also, if you feel like you're doing better than you thought you would be doing, or you're doing worse, you can always change that. Use of AI without written justification provided by the student is expressly forbidden. If a student uses AI, they must write a paragraph outlining how and why it was used. The justification cannot be generated by AI. Students may not use generative AI to produce their work for any assignment submitted in this course. If AI is used for revisions, the revisions must be produced by the student. Students may not cut and paste generated material. I will know and I will call you out on it. It's always so uncomfortable, but I do it. We meet over Zoom, we talk about what happened, um, and we meet with the student, the Office of Student Conduct. And if you do it more than once, you could fail the class. First time, it's just going to be an uncomfortable conversation. Second time puts you at risk of failing, and that permanently, like, I mean, it could permanently go on your record. You really don't want that. Plagiarism is a very serious offense, regardless of what you're going into. It follows you. So definitely don't do that. I know that I seem like I'm being very grumpy about that, but it's difficult. I always hate having the conversation. It's a waste of your time. It's a waste of my time. Just don't do it. Don't use generative AI. I don't expect perfect. I just expect your work to be finished. I remember what it was like. I remember how tough undergrad was. Um, and I understand life is hard. There is the plea. Sometimes things happen that are out of our control. The plea allows you to renegotiate the terms of the contract in extenuating circumstances. If you're facing something that could threaten your standing in the class, like one of your family members gets sick, or you get really sick, or just something crazy in your life happens that is out of your control, we can talk about it. We can figure out a way to move forward that will allow you to still pass. Sometimes that means doing an alternative assignment in order to get credit for something you've missed. Um, it really depends on what you need. But this isn't just something you do if you're skipping work. Like it needs to be something actually happening in your life that prevents you from finishing your work, not that you're just not doing it. Invoking the plea doesn't guarantee you'll be able to complete the class or pass it. Sometimes you'll need to withdraw or retake the course later on. That's something we'll discuss and decide together when we meet over Zoom to talk about it. Just remember the plea isn't an out for someone who's not fulfilling part of the contract. It's for rare or unusual circumstances that are outside of your control. So really, bottom line, the grade contract is a way of looking at what you need to complete and then following through with it. So you don't have to worry about um, what I think about your writing. I will be giving you feedback so you'll be able to grow as writers and researchers, but you're not going to fail the class because your semicolon is in the wrong spot. Like, I want you guys to feel comfortable and enjoy the class. I don't want you to be uncomfortable and constantly afraid of what I'm going to think when I'm grading your papers because I'm here to help you. And I'm not here to shame you because you haven't mastered the mechanics of grammar. And I want this course to be fun. Just please don't use AI and submit your own work and try to submit it on time. As long as you're following what's outlined in the grade contract, you will be completely fine. Okay, so that is all for this one. And oh, I'm so excited to work with you all. I'm so glad you're here. We're going to have an awesome semester. I hope you're having an amazing first week, and I will see you all soon.